Okay, so picking up where we left off, it was a trade route to Europe, not Asia. Sorry, because China is obviously in Asia, which is obviously a big deal because it begins to connect Asia and Europe together. They invented a few things. They were known for textiles, which is clothing. They had water mills and iron casting. They also began to make paper, crossbows, different kinds of weapons. This is definitely a major era in terms of military advancement, in terms of weapons advancement. They take over large portions of Asia, but eventually they fall because they're so big and they have a lot of corruption in the government, which is really similar to the Roman Empire, which we'll talk about later. But keep that in mind, the Han collapse is very similar to that of Rome. All right, so those are the four dynasties, as you can see. We're going to talk a little bit about these religions, and then we will be finished with classical China. So we're going to start with something called Taoism. It is similar to Confucianism. It's a branch of Confucianism. It was started by a different guy, though, than Confucian. And basically it believed that inactivity is best, basically so that nature can run its course and the will of heaven can happen however it wants. Which a lot of people didn't necessarily agree with, but quite a few people actually in that era did become Taoist, interestingly enough. Legalism, as we talked about a little while ago, in the Qin dynasty, if you remember, they did adopt legalism, and they, put all their opponents in prison and whatever. So legalism essentially is a Chinese philosophy. Basically proposes that everyone is evil and has to be controlled by a harsh set of laws. So it makes sense, obviously, one, why it's called legalism, but two, why the Qin dynasty was so harsh and everybody has such a strict set of laws. The last religion is Confucianism, which is probably China's most famous religion. It was started by a guy named Confucius. Obviously, he was a Chinese philosopher at the end of the Zhou dynasty. So really the Zhou was a big era for them in terms of religion. Basically, it was intended to help restore order. China was experiencing a little bit of turmoil, and basically it said that government jobs should be open to all men if they were, of good character and so on. It focused on duty, humility, service to other people. It practiced patience, it did a lot for the Chinese system because it really focused a lot on service to your country and service to your family and, being who everybody says you should be. And really Confucianism, even today, is a pretty well-founded religion in terms of Chinese culture. Their government for a long time was established on Chinese culture. And if you look, at some of the aspects of World War II, you see quite a few people who fight in World War II or whatever based on kind of the beliefs of Confucianism. So that's Confucianism. Like I said, there's three major religions: Confucianism, legalism, and Taoism, right? And there's four major dynasties in China, which again are initially the Shang, and then the Zhou up at the top, and then the Qin down here at the bottom, and then the Han.